Korean Q and Garlic. They're running another promotion, I think, with the Lakers, the basketball team. They have this special proprietary garlic sauce or something like that. I got that. I really like their hot honey seasoning. I think it's a dry rub. Yeah, Wingstop's hot honey is great. Real tasty. Other than that, I mean, I like their mango habanero. It's like at the limit of spice for me, so I wouldn't really ever get their atomic sauce. But their mango habanero is tasty enough that I can tolerate the spice. But I can't really eat more than maybe 5 of those wings at a time. Yeah, I don't know. I like to talk about my city. Again, going back to, all that stuff I was talking about just a minute ago. I like to talk about my city because it's so... I feel like it's so strange in that way. You would think we have just enough people living here that, there would be more activities to do regularly. I know Palm Springs, which is basically around the corner from us, it's about an hour and a half drive away. Palm Springs has a lot more available to them, and they have about the same population. But for whatever reason, they just have a lot more than us. I don't know what happened. They've got a whole airport. I know there's like a community center at some, I don't know, some street. I don't know where. I don't live there. And like casinos and all that stuff. I gotta ban somebody here. Another bot. But yeah, over where I live, just not really anything to do. No community center like that. You have a bowling alley and a skating rink. That's kind of it. There's no venues for concerts. There's not even really that many local shops. I guess if you're like in high school or middle school, you could probably, walk around and find something to do at like a park or something, like ride skateboards or something. But honestly, for people my age and older, there's really nothing to do except go to a bar. I mean, if that's your scene, go for it for sure. Go to the bar, but I'm not one to go to a bar, and I'm not one to go bowling in a league or skate in a derby. So, nothing really for me to do here. Any cool events, I'd have to go at least to Riverside to go see. One example, I guess, one good example of that is one time I have some buddies that go to a local college, local enough anyways, it's a community college in Riverside County, and or at least they used to, I don't know if they do this anymore, but when they first joined the college, they started taking classes for jazz studies. So they kind of formed this jazz group that would go to a local cafe and sit in for most of the night. I went to one of their concerts one time, which was fun. I just kind of sat next to them the whole time and just chatted. But there's nothing really like that where I live. I've never seen a cafe like that. I've never seen a local band sit in like that. So yeah, I don't know. Just kind of interesting. It's almost like a joke. There's plenty of, maybe not in jokes, but like everybody who lives here knows what it's like to live here. there's a kind of slogan. Not a slogan. Maybe it's just the saying. What's the you know how every state has like a not a theme, but like California's called the Golden State or something like that, and there's one state that says, or like how Texas is the Lone Star State. Their nicknames. That's what I'm trying to think of. So like how Texas is the Lone Star State, Georgia or Florida is like the Orange State or something like that. California is the Golden State. Our city, again, I live in San Jacinto, and right next to us is Hemet, and people always say Hemet is heaven, and there's like plenty of signs around town that say stuff like that, and there's like merch every once in a while that says like Hemet is heaven, which is a kind of in-joke that we have because it's so boring here that we just say Hemet is heaven, which is great. I do think that is something great about our city. Everyone who lives here knows how it is to live here, you know? But it's still boring, you know? So yeah, it would be nice to start something like an arts program that could get more people into it. That one that I talked about last episode is about the extent of what we had. It was a summer program that, you know, allowed anybody of any skill level or age to join a strings program for a summer. It was mostly kids who would sign up for it. I'm not even really sure that many people had even, you know, heard about it, but it was mostly kids that joined it. But that was fun. It was like for a couple weeks. And there'd be a concert at the end. But that's kind of it. There wasn't any kind of like special activities to do together as a group. I know one time I did go to another camp in San Diego that was a bit more developed. There was like a full day schedule's worth of stuff to do with different teachers teaching different subjects, and they would split us into different classes for the days. So that was kind of something to do. I'm glad I got to be part of that for a couple summers. I remember there was like a rhythm class where we would just learn about different rhythms for an hour, and then we'd move on to like a harmony class, and we'd learn about what makes something sound like a certain way if it's in a certain key, you know? Stuff like that. And then after that, the people local to San Diego would just go home, and then the people commuting from out of state or out of cities, or sometimes even out of country, we had a... what's the term I'm looking for? We had housing, I guess. We just had housing paid for, or I guess it was included in our tuition at University of San Diego. So, you know, there were some people from Israel, I remember, and some people from Mexico. So, you know, of course they can't just go home after every day. So, and you know, and then there's someone like me who only lives like 2-3 hours away, but that's still a long commute to do every day, especially as like a 16-year-old. So we would just stay at the university in the dorms, and we were basically roommates for a couple weeks. And that was really fun because, you know, we would do all those classes and activities together as a group, and then we'd go back to the dorms and just kind of, I don't know, we'd just do whatever we wanted, basically. It was real nice. It was real fun. But yeah, our summer program wasn't quite that developed. We had people, you know, local people coming in every day for their studies for the for the program. But nobody from out of city and nobody from out of state. We didn't have housing to give out like that. Um, Limited on the staffing, so the activities, quote unquote, were really just, I don't know, take this piece of sheet music home and study it, pretty much. um, I don't know. I mean, it was still fun. It was still something to learn from and have a good time with, but it was just not really the same thing. What did I do here? There's gotta be some way to get under here. I don't think any of these activate anything. See these fires here. Do these fires do anything? Turning into a Zelda puzzle almost. What am I supposed to do here? I gotta be missing something. I feel like there has to be a way to turn this on. Something, man. I don't know. I guess I'll come back if I have to. If I really can't find out what to do here. I can just come back, but this feels like I should be able to figure this out. Another thing I like to always not brag about, I guess, technically, but just talk about my city. Another thing I like to talk about is the fact that we don't really have many restaurants. It's getting better for sure. In the last few years, we have gotten a lot of different franchises over here, which is really nice. You go to Riverside, which is again probably the closest big, well-known city, at least to Californians. You go to Riverside, you can pretty much find anything that you need there. McDonald's, In-N-Out, Chick-fil-A, Cane's, whatever you want. But then you come over here, and at least a few years ago, there wasn't really much or many options. We only had, I would say, Popeyes, In-N-Out, and then the standard like McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's. We have an Arby's. I haven't seen many Arby's around here. So that's cool. No Baker's, no Chick-fil-A. We don't have Chick-fil-A. We used to not have a Cane's. We do now. We have one Cane's, which is cool. We used to not have one. We used to not have Habit Grill. We have a couple of those now. Blaze Pizza, we just got a few years ago. Yeah, I mean, I don't really talk about it anymore because we got the restaurants now, right? Which I'm happy about. But, in high school, whenever I met somebody from out of my city, I'd be like, well, you guys are lucky because you have all these restaurants you can go to. I can't even go to Chick-fil-A if I wanted to. Blah, 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 blah. No local restaurants. Well, not many at least. There's a few, but again, you go to Riverside, there's like tons and tons of them. Anyways, I think we're done here. We still have quite a few dice to get, and the marble, we can't really figure out how to get there. And the scrolls. But we're definitely going to have to come back another time for all that. But I think that's good enough for now. Let's see. We did the Weep Wild Dankness. We didn't quite finish all these other ones yet. We finished Snoring Valley, of course, but all these other ones we haven't quite finished yet. It looks like we're going to Tangledrift next, which I feel like I'm gonna hate. I remember not really liking this place all that much. Seems real convoluted, if I'm being honest. Doesn't really look that convoluted, but I feel like it's gonna be a lot more, I guess, twisty and tricky when we actually get there. Alright, so let's go ahead and head over there. I think this is where we want to go. This is the entrance. Yeah, I'll die on that hill of like, this town is boring. It would be nice to get some more stuff going on over here. There's kind of a punk scene, kind of, over here with music. I will say, uh, probably one of the most active things that we have here is an open mic that happens once a month. Um, I talked about this music store on Oh, hit my mic. Sorry. Oh, what happened to my game? Hello? Okay, we're back. Yeah, on Sunday during my stream, my balloon stream, I was talking about um, this music store, which has been kind of moving locations over the past years. When I was younger, there was one music store, and it was, it was a music store. It wasn't anything extravagant, I guess. I didn't really know what was going on as a kid like that. But then they closed down at some point for whatever reason. And then some years later, another one opened up. I think different owners and everything, and that stayed around for most of my life. That's the one I'm familiar with. Uh, I ended up connecting with a few people there because they had this event every month where they had two events. They would do open mics, which were just local people showing up and singing or playing an instrument or, spoken poetry, whatever, or whatever they wanted to do. That was every month, or maybe every week. I can't really remember. Maybe bi-weekly. I don't remember. It was kind of often, so it was kind of a thing for people to show up and actually, do the open mic. I did it a few times. It's kind of how I got familiar with some of the people who work there. And then I do know once a month they would do this, like a more organized show, which would have some local bands from the county. Like the smallest stage you've ever seen, like this little tiny stage with some lights and some chairs in the store. And of course it was in the store, so people were still coming in and like buying stuff whenever they wanted. But yeah, people from all over the county would come and perform there, which is really nice. Just a real good time. And then at some point they stopped doing that for some reason. Maybe they just couldn't find enough bands to book regularly or something. Or they just didn't have enough money. I don't know. I'm not a businessman, don't ask me. But then instead of doing that, they started doing a monthly open mic, which was basically a combination of the two. Some bands, like full bands, would come around for the sake of playing. But it wasn't like a paid concert thing, or, it wasn't super organized like that. I did that a few times. And, met some other people, which is real nice. And then, yeah, they're still doing that now. So, that's something that is really cool and really neat. That is active in my city. I would say the music scene is It's okay. Like I said, there's not many things for young people to do, unfortunately, but you know, if you're a little bit older, I guess, and if you want to perform in front of some randoms as a random, then like go ahead. I haven't gone in a while though. The first couple times I did it with some friends. I've done it by myself a few times, but I haven't been in a while. I don't really know if I will go anytime soon, but this is a cool time. My mom's trying to call me about these wings, sorry. Um, so yeah, I mean, for all that I will say about my city that is annoying and boring, the music scene is pretty nice. Like I don't know how to describe it because I say the music scene is nice, but again, we don't really have much for young people to do. So it's not like we're supporting younger people in making music and, you know, developing the scene that much. But we do have some bands that, I mean, I wouldn't say are famous, but like they're still bands, you know? And they still go around the county and perform. I know a guy who moved out to Georgia and is in a few bands right now. And he's pretty active in that scene, so I mean, we have, you know, pretty active scene in that regard. A lot of alt rock, indie rock, punk rock, stuff like that. So you know, that's all fun and all that. But again, it's kind of sad because there's not really many people supporting the scene actively. So it's like if you want to continue that scene, you'd have to at some point buy your own guitar and learn on your own terms, which is not easy to do. Oh, you know, people find a way. I think I was one of the lucky ones when it comes to that kind of stuff because, like I said, that program that I was in when I was in high school was kind of the only one around. So, you know, limited availability there. And it closed down pretty much right after I left, which is just sad. I think if my life was a little different, I would have joined a band and probably contributed to that scene, that indie band scene that we have. I do like to play bass, and I did entertain that thought for a little bit. I recorded some songs and wrote some songs with a few of my friends after high school. Um, there was an album that we made, like all together. I played bass on it. The guitarist wrote the songs and the lyrics, and then we had a drummer. We were all friends in the same graduating class. But for whatever reason, the singer decided to take everything off of streaming services and YouTube. I don't really know why, and we haven't all talked since then. That was back in like late 2020. We released the album, and we like kept talking for a little bit after that. For whatever reason, we just never really talked after that. And one of the guys went to college. One of the guys started a business. I don't know if that's working out for him, but he, like, moved out of state. Here I am still at home playing video games, trying to play video games for a living. So, you know, all went kind of our separate ways. Yeah, I think if my life was a little different, we probably would have stayed together and wrote more music, and I don't know, either all went to college together or maybe found a room, apartment together, something like that. You know, life doesn't really all always work out like that, so here we are. I wish I could tell you why Singer decided to remove everything off of Spotify. There wasn't really any bad blood between any of us, at least as far as I know. I mean, you know, I'm the bassist, you know, I could have just been the ignorant guy in the band, like bassists typically are. The drummer and the singer could have had some disagreements or something, I don't really know. Yeah, we had a full album out on streaming. We recorded a few of them in like professional studios. The rest of them were produced at home. We all wrote our parts separately. We all were there for each of the recording sessions and everything, so I really don't know what happened. Only thing that's survived that whole thing is one of the singles. For whatever reason, the singer did not take off one of the singles from his YouTube page. Took it down from Spotify and like our artist page and everything like that. But for whatever reason, on his YouTube page, he must have forgot or something like that. I don't know. And I decided to just record it and re-upload it on my own channel so we don't lose it. So that's on my YouTube right now if you want to check that out. You'd have to dig around a little bit to find it, but it's there. And yeah, everything else is gone, unfortunately. Just got done with the Platinum with melee damage only. It was fun. Now I have the DLC achievements, and I'll be doing those on Chaos 100. Oh, man. Oh, well, you know, good luck with that. I'm not really sure how I'm doing on all the achievements. I'm going around searching for all the secrets right now. I'm going for like dice and scrolls and all that stuff. So I've still got to do all the chaos trials and DLC. Let's see, what do we have to find here? I don't even know what we're looking for. We just did the obelisk, so that's done. Gotta find another marble. One poetry page, one rune switch, and one oh no, I already said that. One marble, one poetry page, one rune switch, and 3 scrolls. And then we need, how many dice is that? 14? Alright. The marble page switch. Marble page switch. And one of each. One of each. One of each. Remember that. We're right here right now. Came in this way, we headed over here. Got the obelisk. I don't think there's anything over here that we missed. And now we have a few options to do. I think there's a jump pad that will take us over here and over here. And then all this is accessible from there. Then we would take a jump pad back. This is accessible from a portal. It's like right here or something like that. I think that's just its own island right there. Then all of this is a whole separate part of the map, I believe. I don't know. We have to go travel and find out. Okay, let's get started.